going on, guys? This is Fernie, your host with Dad Lies Matter. We're going to bring you guys another exciting episode. We got our brother Silverwolf today, all the way from the UK. What's going on, Silverwolf?
I'm good, you?
Good, man. So his real name is Fabian. We call him Silverwolf because that's his TikTok name, and he brings a lot of knowledge to our TikTok channel. Super excited to have you on here, brother. And man, you drop a lot of knowledge. You have a good heart. I'm really happy that we were able to get you on here, bro. And then taking time, and we're on the complete opposite sides of the world. You know, different time zones, different everything. So it's super interesting. I'm excited to have you on here, man. How's the weather?
Cold and dark.
There you go. So, we're just going to give you an opportunity, not an opportunity. We're going to give you the stage so you can kind of share your story. A lot of guys have said, hey, this guy's got a crazy story. We definitely got to share it with people. And here's one thing, Silverwolf, which I think is cool. First of all, I used to call this guy Silver Fox for the longest time. Now that I get to see his mug, I'm like, oh, I was right. It's Silver Fox. good looking dude on here. Silverwolf, one of the things that I think is super cool about you, man, that I didn't really know too much about your story. I didn't really know too much about your background. I heard a lot of stuff from my team, and the reason why I think it's super interesting is because something that I notice is that everybody wants to share their story, right? Like, absolutely share your story. But one of the things that I love the most is when I see someone like yourself or like Juan or like Freddie or like Jimmy or like Luna or like Holmes or like all these guys, right? Albin, I can keep going, where you guys don't ever say, hey, let me share my story. You actually do the opposite. You're always like, hey, how can I help? How can I help? You know what I mean? Like, hey, let me help. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can do to help? And I think that's so cool because then we end up finding out that you guys have some of the craziest stories. Like, you've gone through a lot of adversity. You've dealt with a lot of stuff that I don't want to take away from what you've gone through. But as a father, you've gone through some of the stuff that it's a father's worst nightmares.
Yeah, very true.
Right. That's like I don't think. And like, you're sitting here, you're smiling, you bring so much positivity. Like, I know that you have to have a lot of times where you're like, fuck, this sucks. I get it. But I love that you're still, hey, I'm a dad and I got to continue still being a dad. I still got to stay positive. And, just an amazing story, man. I got to stop because then people are going to understand where we're going. So I'm just going to shut up now. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, bro, where you're from, what you do, and let's get into it.
So, as you said, name's Fabian. Silverwolf is actually my kickboxing club name, which that's where it all stems from. I'm 27, so I'm still one of the younger members of the group, and I live in Scarborough, UK, which is sort of basically like on the coast. So. So a bit of background. I'm the dad to 4 kids. Just had the recent one on Christmas Eve.
That's
just
right.
Gone.
Yeah, just got the baby one.
Yeah. Eldest is 4. Then there's my daughter that passed away. Then there's my 2-year-old, and then the 4-week-old.
How old would your daughter have been?
60. She was 16 days when she passed, but she will have been 3 in February.
Oh man, it's coming up.
Yeah, we're going to hit the rough month soon.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Sorry, brother.
It'd be 12th of February.
Man.
The day that she was born, and it was the 28th day she left.
Whew.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my hardest to keep my emotions in so we can finish this podcast, man. Man,
get your tissues ready.
Yeah. No, I was like, all right, let's go. So now you guys kind of get an idea what this podcast is about. It's when a father has to go through a loss, and not just a father, right? The mother, the children, the grandparents, everybody else involved. It's not just
Yeah.
one person. It's a bunch of us, a bunch of people that get or that are involved in this. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we want to talk about, and kind of share the story of your daughter. If you don't mind, we can use her name if you want, whatever you're
Oh
comfortable with.
yeah.
And and what's the most important message that you want our listeners to get away from, right? Because I can't imagine, bro. Like I hate thinking about it. You know what I mean? So we don't want to get right into that, but now that the listeners know, like, this is what this episode is about today. You know?
Just to understand that child loss is child. Dads still go through it. They come up with, like, I suffer a bit of PTSD from it.
Yeah.
It had a very not just support. The thing with child loss is it can break families. Some families come together. Some it just completely breaks.
Mm.
Like, they completely split up. They get divorced. Everything. Brought us together a bit more.
I was gonna ask.
And yeah, it brought us together. But it was a night that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's tough. And we even talked about, hey, we're gonna do a live on her birthday, on her, for in memory of her. And the reason why I said that is because we had another gentleman who lost a daughter. His name is Eli. He's part of Dad Lives Matter as well. And you said some cool stuff, man, that really, really caught my attention. And I really loved what you did. And I was like, man, he's got a good heart, man. And it was, what was her favorite color? Right? That was the thing we said. What's her favorite color? And then everybody scribble her name on a piece of paper and then find a cool place and take a picture and send it to Eli, which I thought was awesome. Is that something that you guys did?
Silver has traveled the world. She's been to Thailand. She's been to Cyprus. She's been to the States with us. Wherever anybody's gone on holiday, any friends, we just said, look, can you just take a picture for us?
That's awesome.
She's been wrote in the sand on a fancy beach in Thailand when my friend went there to train.
Yeah.
You name it, she's been all over the world.
What's her name?
Silver.
Yeah. No way.
Can you see where the link's coming in?
Yeah. What? Wow, that's awesome. What made you pick that name?
It's my wife's favorite color. So her full name is Silver Rose, which was Holly's grandma, like Nana, as we call them, was called Rose. And so it was her favorite color, and it just rolled off the tongue, Silver Rose.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful name.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So now it makes sense. Yeah, Silverwolf. That's awesome.
So the wolf bit's my sort of spirit animal, and the fact that wolves never tend to give in.
That's awesome. And you guys, you own a kickboxing gym, correct?
Yeah.
And is that what it's called? It's called Silverwolf?
Yeah. Silverwolf Kickboxing.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all starting to make sense. You can tell I'm like processing all as we're talking, Yeah. So, let's kind of go from the beginning as far as like Silver, and give us the whole story as far as like what happened, because I know we're gonna have a lot of questions. Like, what are you okay answering all these questions?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so just kind of give us an idea, like what happened. Is there something was it like a medical condition? Was it something just you couldn't see it coming? Like, just to kind of get an idea.
We'll go right back to the start.
Yes.
So we found out we were expecting her on my son's first birthday. So my son had literally turned 1 when we found out we were expecting the second one. Fast forward a little bit to the 20-week scan. There was something wrong with the fluid, the amniotic fluid around baby. There wasn't the right amount. So we got referred from a local hospital to a general hospital in a city, and they confirmed no fluid at all. The doctor turned around within the next few minutes and went, here's your options for a termination. There's
Wow.
no chance of life, nothing. She was 20, and so she was 20 weeks. Obviously, they can feel baby moving and stuff. And he was like, "Yep, what do you want to do? We can do it now. We can do it in an hour. We can do it in a couple of days." My sister-in-law's a midwife for that hospital, so she came rushing down to be with us.
Yeah.
And so we
And
sat
so
there.
let me ask you a question. Sorry. The way you're saying it, and I just want to know, that's how this doctor was saying it? Like, just like, we can do it now, we do it now. Like, almost like there's no
Yeah, he
attachment and no.
literally, he literally sort of basically sat us down and went, "Yeah, there's no fluid." She was already starting to go behind on growth, so she
Yeah.
was going to be smaller anyway. And you just turned around and went, "There's no chance of life. You either what we'll do is we'll give you up to 24 weeks to decide."
Whoa.
Right, 22 up to 22 weeks. They do it a certain way. From 22 to 24, injection into the heart to kill it. Yeah, we had the full proper conversation of how to
Whoa.
basically kill a baby.
What are your thoughts at this point? Are you mad? I mean, are you just confused? Like, you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are your
It
thoughts?
was shock, confusion. Just couldn't fathom
Yeah.
how we'd got to that point. He basically didn't want anything to do with it. And this is they call them fetal medicine doctors. So they obviously deal with babies before they're born.
Mm.
And so basically we sat there for about an hour in that appointment room, and he's umming and ahhing, going, "Look, we can, go away, come back, go and have a glass of water, come back, whatever." He just didn't want to know. And so we said, no, we're going to go. We need to go home, basically.
Good choice.
On the way home, we don't know if this is a quinkadink or what, coincidence, quinkadink. As we're driving home, we're about, say, an hour away from home, and a fuel tanker, like they can get quite mucky.
Mhm.
It had on the back of it, no word of a lie, "Choose life."
Wow.
Wrote in dirt, like somebody wrote in the dirt, "Choose life."
Wow.
And we went, there you are, that's the sign.
Whoa.
That's that. Yeah, that was the moment where we went, okay.
Yeah. Mm.
So
That's so awesome, and that is one of the beautiful things about life, and the beautiful thing about what we do, right?
Mhm.
Like, that person wrote "Choose life" on a dirty truck, right? And they'll never know the story,
No,
right? They're never going to know the story, and because we don't know who it is, right? So
yeah,
you can never get back to
I
that
think
person's.
the road that it was going on is quite common for people jumping off the bridges over the road, because it's a 4-lane motorway,
Okay.
3-lane motorway. So a lot of people would jump the bridges.
Yeah.
So it's that moment of the wagon will go under,
Mm-hmm.
and then, because sometimes what tends to happen, because the wagons are tall, if they notice somebody's on the bridge on the other side of the barrier, they completely stop. They will put wagons all the way under the bridge so they can't jump.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this person obviously got on the back of a tanker, wrote "Choose life" as it was up and down the motorway so that people would have seen it.
That's awesome.
So
And you ended up seeing this.
yeah.
And then you were like, all right, that's my sign. That's what I needed.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because every choice that we make, there's a consequence, or there's an action to it. You know what I mean? A reaction to our actions, right? And that's the thing with Dad Lives Matter and everything we do. This is the thing with this podcast. Like, this podcast is going to hit someone's life, and it's going to hit them hard. We don't know who it's going to be. We might never meet them, and it doesn't matter. The point is, we do this so we can reach out to as many people as we can, and hoping that it changes one person's life, hoping that it's there for that one person that we're like, hey, we're here for you. And we're hoping that, hey, your story is the sign for somebody. And now they're like, that was the sign I was looking for. Thank you. And
Yeah.
that's how important your message is. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is because that person wrote a message and it's important. So all our messages are super important. So that's awesome, man. So you're driving by there, you get your sign, and you look at your wife, and you're like, okay, that's her sign. We're
Yeah.
doing. So then, where do you go from?
So we got home, and instantly, wife's Google treatments. What can we do? There's no fluid. We need to get amniotic fluid back into baby. What do we do? You know, there's all these different things. She's pulling things from America, like over in America, there is a thing where they call amniotic infusion, where they'll take a big needle and pump fluid into the womb to try and rebuild the fluid. So then baby would drink it and get it going.
That's awesome.
Because obviously that's the main problem is baby was taking fluid in but not giving anything back out. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we had an appointment with the same doctor that basically didn't want to know. And my wife's very smart. He tried to use medical jargon, as I call it, medical wording against her. She knew exactly what he was saying, and she didn't take anything for it.
Nice.
He was saying, "Oh, we can only offer you palliation care. If you want to have the baby and continue the pregnancy, you can do it in your local hospital with no doctors, just midwives, knowing that the actual progress of labour would kill baby anyway." And it got to the point where he turned around and went, "Do you want a second opinion?" And we went, "Yeah, of course you do."
Yeah.
And she just burst out, "Newcastle, which is another city up north from where we live." So she'll have been 22 weeks by that point, 22, 23, something like that. We get up to Newcastle at 24 weeks, and we see a professor, and he's the top fetal medicine doctor for the whole country, basically. We tell him the story, tell him everything, and he sat there and went, "Okay, right. Well, first things first, we can't do that. You're too late. The amniotic fusion thing. We're too late. We've missed that point now. Best thing we can do now is just regular checks on baby, regular tests. We'll work out what the problem is so that we can try and give her the best life we can."
That's awesome.
There is a very high chance she will pass away in the womb because there's no fluid around her, and we don't know why there isn't any fluid around her.
Yeah.
But we will just push and push and push and see what happens. She had a thing called, we didn't even know what gender we were having at that point either, because obviously there's no fluid, so you can hardly see anything on the scan.
Right.
The only way we found out what we were having was she had to have a procedure done that's called a CVS, I think, and it's a needle that big. Goes in past baby into the placenta and pulls out tiny bits of the placenta to be tested.
Ooh. For all our listeners that are listening to this on the podcast and not the YouTube, can you put your hands up again really quick and show us how big that needle is? So that has to be what, 10 inches, 8 inches, about 8 to 10 inches.
Yeah.
Guys, that had to go into his wife. Oy.
Yeah. I nearly passed out because she's laid next to me having this done, but in front of me is the monitor so we can see, because they're doing an ultrasound at the same time, so the doctor can see what she's doing. Yeah. So basically, I'm going, what? What?
Yeah. What? Oh,
what
no.
Yeah. And it was kind of a case of, I'm going to pass out.
Yeah. Oh.
It was not. So that's how we found out that we were having a girl. Is they checked all the chromosomes and they checked for the illnesses and all them things. This was when the illnesses, I think, started to become apparent of what the problems were, so we kind of had a bit of an idea of which directions we were going in. At the time of that procedure, she was maybe, trying to think off the top of my head, 25 weeks, but Silver was actually the growth of a 20-week baby, so she was still tiny. Her growth was tailing off the more we went on with the pregnancy. And so, yeah, that was sort of, and we're just regular checks in. Get to February. So she is 32 weeks at this point. And we had a 8:30 appointment with the doctor in the morning, this professor. So we stayed overnight in Newcastle, went in the hospital that morning, had the appointment, and Holly turned around to the doctor and went, movements aren't good. They're not right. Something's not right. Instantly, doctor went, because we'd already agreed at this, the aim at that point is to get to 34 weeks. And we'd already agreed to do a C-section. So we'd already agreed that was the best way for her to live, for Silver to live. And so, 32 weeks and 6, I think it was the 12th of February. And so after the appointment, she's like, the movements aren't right. So he moves us from where we were to the day unit with the midwives. They get her strapped up to a machine, like a CTG machine, and they give her like like game shows have a buzzer.
Mm-hmm.
Every time baby moved, she had to push the button. And she just, every now and so we got to tea time, and they went, you could either stay in with us or you can go home. Home was 2 hours away. But we had an appointment like 2 days later, so it would have been going home, 2 days, come back up. We opted to stay in Newcastle at the hospital. Come tea time, pushing the button and stuff, the doctor came in and went, nah, we're going to go. We're going to go to surgery now. She was a pincushion. 2 cannulas, steroid injection, spinal. They actually gave a freeze burn on her hand because the cannula failed, the first cannula. We got her into surgery. There's us, doctors, the surgery team, paediatrician doctors, the unit's ready to go. And basically, when she was born, I think they thought they'd already lost her when she was born. They had her on a machine pumping air into her, like giving her air.
Oxygen.
Yeah. And so they worked on her for about half hour, 45 minutes in the surgery room. And she was that big. She was about the size of my hand. So that's how big she was the whole time. She weighed 870 grams, 1.9.
Oof.
So not even a bag of sugar, basically, as we call it.
Yeah.
I'll send some pictures across of the day that she was born, and you can see the size of her when I find them.
No rush.
So yeah, basically, so the day she was born at like 9:30, 10 at night. It was 1 a.m. before I went to see her. So mum's in recovery, and I went to see her in the neonatal unit. She was on absolutely everything the hospital had to offer. She was on a moving board. She was on nitrous. No, not nitrous. There was some kind of gas they were giving her to help her lungs, oxygen, heaters, you name it, she was on it. And you got to think, literally, baby this big, having everything. She had tubes already in, all sorts of stuff. So that was the first day. I think the next day whatever they'd given Mum gave her bad guts. So Mum couldn't go and see her straight away to start with. So we had to fight tooth and... So about mid-afternoon, we'd finally got to be able to go and see her on the first day. And so she was on, like I say, she was on absolutely everything. And basically what happened was they would do every single... They'd found there was problems with her lungs, problems with her kidneys. They were the two big issues that we had. And so when she was born, she was the size... She was, like I say, she was tiny when she was born. I'm trying to think of what they said. About 18, 19-week-old baby. So she was...
Jeez.
Yeah. We got given... They had a thing... I can't remember what they call them. They call them Snuggies, I think. So this... We got two of these. And what happened is... Mum would put this down her bra. It's like a little teddy for people that are listening.
Yeah.
Just like a little teddy with a head.
Yeah, it's really small.
Yeah.
And it looks like a blanket and a teddy bear, almost.
Yeah.
The size of his hand.
Yeah. So we had two of them. One would go in the incubator with Silver, and one would stay with Mum. Sort of next to Mum's breast, basically. And what would happen is every time they'd meet, the swap to try and get Silver to get the smell of Mum, basically.
Wow.
To know that Mum's always there, sort of thing. Which then helped Mum's milk production. So you got to think, Mum is in hospital pumping breast milk for a baby that can't actually have it yet.
Ooh.
Yeah. And she basically takes over majority of the fridges in Skaboo, in NICU unit. She had 2 shelves of breast milk to herself. And they're like big, deep freezer shelves.
Yeah. Wow.
Which later ended up getting donated to a milk bank, and it was 9.5 litres worth of breast milk. Yeah. And that would get sent to babies all up and down the country in neonatal units where Mum cannot provide milk.
That's awesome.
So I think it was maybe 5 days in, we had a doctor come to us and he was like, we need to talk. And he pulled us into a room with the nurse, sat us down and went, something isn't right. We're not going the right way. So we went from kind of what we started was we went from hours to days. Now we're going back to hours, where literally we were on call to go at any point to say bye. We got warned that we're now back in hours. We don't know what's up with her. Just something isn't right. They had already punctured her lung because she was building fluid in her lungs because of her lungs being poorly. She was having injection, like basically air release from her lungs, like fluid release from her lungs into a barrel, into a thing. I think they tried to take something off her. Like, I don't know if it was a moving board or if it was one of the gases or something. They tried to take something away and she didn't like it. So they kept her on it. And so there was like one day where we went back to hours. The next day she was fine. We went back to, but that's what it was like. It was very touch and go all the time. You don't know if you were coming and going. Day 14, because she hadn't gone to the toilet. By this point, we were doing what they call her cares, where we would change her a nappy, we would give her a bit of a wash, we would put a tiny bit of breast milk on a cotton bud into her mouth, so she would actually have milk in her mouth and stuff and swirled round. And so we would do the cares for her. Because she wasn't going to the toilet, by this point, she'd come off the gas, she'd come off the board, so she was just on oxygen, assisted oxygen. And they'd started putting her on fluids at that point to give her sugars and stuff like that, because obviously she wasn't having breast milk because she was getting bunged up and nothing was coming through, nothing was filtering. So what they did is they actually took her to surgery, and the bags, where they attach them to basically the poo bags. They did that. But actually, by this point, she was actually on no oxygen assistance. She was breathing on her own in her incubator.
That's awesome.
She obviously still had her tubes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was kind of breathing on her own. Even on the way back from surgery, she didn't want any oxygen. The nurse would give her some, and the monitor would start going like that. That's how they could tell something wasn't right. So they'd turn it down. So literally she was just breathing what they call room air, which is what me and you breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So she was basically on the same thing as us. This is when the events begin. So that was day 14. So she had surgery. We've had her out on the way the incubators work is they pull down one side and you could actually pull a tray out. So she was laid on a tray that basically would come out of her incubator, where we'd be able to kind of cuddle, stroke her, hold her hand and stuff. She was never well enough up to this point to be taken off her tray to be given to mum for a cuddle. Tea time on day 15, mum was doing cares, nappy, feeding, washing. And the nurse turned around and went, "Today's the day. We're going to get her out. She's well enough to be brought out off her." And what they would do is they'd sit baby here and you'd be wrapped up. So baby sat here. So you're going to think she's about side of my hand, sitting there. And she sat there with mum for about an hour, still with all her tubes and everything. And so that was tea time. Fast forward to midnight, I was doing her cares. We had our eldest up at this point. We actually lived in a special, they called it a charity house, where basically a charity paid for this big mansion building. We all had our own rooms, but shared kitchen, living room area. Everybody in that house had a baby or a child on the children's ward that was ill with one thing and another. Midnight, I'm doing her cares. And about 1 a.m., I then came back to the room. We'd just settled down, just had a bite to eat or whatever in our room. 3 a.m., we had a phone in our room that was directly connected to the ward. 3 a.m., got the call. We got the call to go. This, if you Google the Beast of the East, this is when we had our biggest snowstorm in this country in ages. That had just started when we were, and it was about a 10-minute walk from the house to the hospital. So, yeah, 3 a.m. got the call. Grabbed my son out of the cot, picked him up, got him dressed, chucked clothes on us, darted in the hospital as quick as you could. You got to think, mum is 16 days after having a section. She shouldn't be running, basically, especially in snow. Darted into the hospital, got into the receptionist, and everybody already knew what was happening, so we didn't have to buzz or anything to get through the doors. Got in, hit the double doors. There's 3 rooms with 4 incubators each. 2 rooms were empty of nurses. Babies were in there, but no nurses. Got to our room. Doctor turned around, got 10 minutes. So we got told, got 10 minutes. They'd done CPR. They were doing blood transfusion. They'd paralysed her because they were doing x-rays. They'd had 2 chest drains put back in. While all this is going on, the nurses had taken my son. They had said they were looking after him all night while we focused on what was happening. So when we found out after about, obviously, we got to the 10-minute mark and they were still working on her and working. They had done another blood transfusion, they'd done another x-ray, they'd done another chest drain. Then they did absolutely everything. All right, and you've got to think, up to this point, I've never cuddled her or touched her. Not touched her, but you know what I mean, actually cuddled her. The doctor came in at about 4, 5 and went, we think it's time to get her out now. It's time to have your time with her. So they completely shut the room off to any other parent coming in, because you could come in at any point. There was 24-hour access. So they shut the room off, apart from the nurses that was looking after us and the doctor. So there's me, mum. I'd phoned my parents, or my mum at this point. We'd also phoned her mum and dad, who'd set off to come to the hospital at 3 in the morning. It took them, what usually is a 2-hour trip, took them 4.5 hours because of snow. So they arrived about 6 o'clock in the morning while I'm cuddling Silver. Literally, I've got like I said, ask Jimmy to show you the pictures of the difference between 24 hours. She is completely, there's nothing with her. She's gone pale, she's gone, because they paralysed her and everything like that. So I'm cuddling her. And then obviously mum gets a chance to cuddle her. And then she comes back to me, and then Nana and Grandad arrives. Then Nana and Grandad had a quick cuddle, I think. And she comes back to me. No word of a lie. The doctor came in and went, right, we've now got to make a decision. Either we wait it out and she dies and passes away, or we pull her off and she passes away. No word of a lie. Nobody was there. I got a hand on my shoulder. I don't know if it was my nana or somebody had turned up, but I got a hand on my shoulder. And Silver opened her eyes. She was completely paralysed, but she opened her eyes one more time. And me and my mum looked at each other and went, that's the signal. So we basically had, what we had to do then is we handed her over to the nurse. They then moved it off the main oxygen line of the one that's connected to the walls, and then put her onto an oxygen tank. And what we had to do is we had to go to what they call a quiet room. Basically, you go in that room, that's it. That is the room where they call it a quiet room for a reason. 9 in the morning. So you've got to think from 3 a.m. to 9, after getting told 10 minutes, they pulled her final thing out. And within seconds, she'd gone. And that is something you will never, ever forget. Never, ever forget. And because of the storm, we were fortunate enough, because she needed an autopsy doing, we were fortunate enough to actually have an extra week with her in our room on a special. Basically, we had to keep her cold. I mean, I don't know if it was the day of her passing away or if it was the day after, but we got to do her first baby bath, first time getting her dressed. Everything you would have done with a normal baby as soon as it was born, we got a chance to do that with Silver. We had a special photographer come in that basically took photos of her in her Moses basket with my rings on, cuddled up to me, cuddled up to Mum. A kissing tree where it's me, Mum, her. We had loads of photos done. But when we took her back to the room, we had to have her in a Moses basket on basically a freezer bed that was keeping her cold all the time. People probably think it was weird to do that, but it was just, we didn't want to leave her, basically.
Of course not, man. And
there was one day where we wanted to go for a walk just around the hospital. We actually got one of the nurses to babysit Silver because Mum was absolutely terrified to leave her. Even though she passed away and everything, Mum was still terrified. Obviously, the nurses were like, yeah, we fully understand. We've done it plenty of times. They just looked after her. The morning of her passing away was the same nurse that's the one that let Hall have her out for a cuddle. She couldn't believe the difference between the 2 days. She absolutely bawled her eyes out as soon as she turned up to work. Because they had what they call special white screens. You know, if somebody basically, to basically close it off from everybody seeing. When she came to work and saw the white screens in our room, she knew it was Silver. And she couldn't believe it. She broke down in pieces. The day after she passed, I pulled the nurse aside because the nurse stayed on after her shift. And I turned around to her and says, "What happened between 12 and 3? What happened?" I mean, I'm ready today. I left at 1, so between 1 and 3. 2 o'clock she fell ill. 2:30, 2 o'clock she fell ill. 2:30 they brought her back. 3 o'clock she went too far. So they get to a certain point where they have to call you. So she ends up having a full autopsy done to find out what her problems were. They called it dysplastic kidneys, where there's cysts on the kidneys, so she wasn't getting any fluid. And she also had a lung problem where her lungs were very, very small. She outdid all the doctors' expectations and stuff of how long she was going to live and stuff like that. So everybody was in shock when she did pass away, really, because we got to the point she wasn't on any aids or anything. She was just on fresh air. Then in April, after they're done, so February to March is when she passed. She passed on the 28th of February. When it came to her funeral, instead of her funeral director picking her up and bringing her home, we brought her home. I had to notify the police that I was carrying a dead body on board the car, just in case if there was a crash at any point and they saw her basically dead already. I had to tell them I was bringing a dead body home. So we get her home, we do the first night and stuff with her. And then she obviously gets taken away to the funeral directors to get ready. I had to basically put her top on her casket. The casket was that big, by about that wide. She was in a dress and everything inside it. That Snuggie thing that I showed you, that was in with her. She had a teddy in with her. When it came to her funeral, only I carried her, literally, like that. And we had her cremated, so it was because we just didn't know why we would be and what we would do. Never been right since, basically.
Yeah.
And we're coming up to 3 years.
I mean, you don't ever recover from the loss of a child.
No.
How do you sorry, man. Sorry. I have all these things that I'm like, I'm going to say this, and how do you say that? And then you don't really have too much to say because it's just like, fuck, man, I wish you were right here so I could just hold you and be like, dude, I'm sorry, bro. You know what I mean? And
she was that so well known by our friends that the town we lived in, everybody knew she'd passed away. So there's two sides to that, though. There's the side where people want to come and hug you, say they're sorry and stuff. Then there's the side where people completely avoid you because they don't know what to say to you. They will see you walking down the street and they will cross over the road.
wow.
They don't want to be anywhere close to you because they don't know what to say, so they'll avoid you.
What do you say to something like that? So someone who's going through it, what would you recommend at that point? Do you say, hey, avoiding is so much worse?
The avoiding is worse because in my head I'm going, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Why even like my mum's friends her friends were ignoring her. They didn't want to know. They would cross over the street knowing that what just happened. Because what happened is, what we would do is every morning we would give an update on Facebook and Instagram and stuff of how she was doing. So you got to think, when she passed away, me and Mum went literally for about an hour's sleep. We hadn't slept all night and we got an hour. When we woke up, we went right, before anybody asks what's gone on, we'll make the post saying she's passed away. So everybody already knew by that point. So yeah, you constantly, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still had to do food shopping. I still had to go places. I still had to do things with my son. Mum could not go anywhere. Saw a newborn baby, dropped down in tears. Saw a pregnant mum, dropped down in tears. It really hit home. I don't know what it's like over there, but we have what they call a 6-week check. So 6 weeks after baby, you go and see a doctor. Baby usually gets their check and stuff like that. When mum still had to go and do her check with no baby, she was in the room with somebody that just had a 6-week-old baby, so was born the same day as Silver. Yeah. So I ended up saying to us, right, we need to move. Why? Because there's a baby there. There's no ifs and buts. Right, in the side room. So they got us out the way, put us in the side room. And that helped, because that's helped some people when mums Mum's done a blog on stuff on it all and her side of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that actually helped somebody else that lost a baby. They knew for their 6-week check, they had to pre-book a room to be away from other mums. It's kind of a, and like, we just didn't know where to put ourselves basically for ages because everything reminded you of a baby. It's like you think of a yellow car, you'll see a yellow car. You think of a baby, you'll see a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Or a baby or whatever.
My thing is that, or my question is, there's no way you're over it. I know that. There's no way. There's just, it ain't gonna happen.
No.
3 feels like 3 weeks, if you ask me.
Mm.
What would you tell the dads out there that are going through something similar like this? What would you tell them now? I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not what's the best advice, because you really can't give the best advice. You know what I mean? Because it's just such a sensitive situation. But how did you?
It sounds really daft, but the best advice, because by this point you've got to think. We're thinking, did we have a baby? Did we not have a baby? You know, there's that side of you going really mushed up of, was it a dream? Or because that whole time we were in hospital, we didn't leave. We didn't see normal life. We didn't see news. We didn't see anything. We didn't really have any life apart from hospital, her sort of thing. So the best thing is talk about it. Keep them in conversation. You know, that's why the story still basically makes me bawl my eyes out. Because of the fact that, and it sounds daft, but birthdays, Christmas, put their name on the card. You know, I was telling Jimmy the other day, New Year's Eve, well, New Year's Day, one of my friends, her relation had just lost their baby that was 9 weeks old. And so I had to sort her out and giving them the advice of what's best to do, how's it going, you know, what happens, how's it all going to work, how are you going to feel, and all the rest of it. So the best advice I could give a dad is talk about it, mention them, bring them up in conversation. Try, like, think. You got to think, she would be 3 years old now, and we literally said the other night, what would she be doing? How would she be? What was her personality going to be? I mean, you could tell what her personality was when she was born. No word of a lie. She gave that to the nurse one day. She flipped the nurse off. Basically.
You guys can't see that flipped the camera off. She was a fighter.
Yeah, she was. Very much so. Very much so.
So many feelings, so many emotions, and just like you don't know what to say. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's tough, man. Like we said, like that's a parent's worst nightmare, right? Either your son or your daughter or whoever gets taken away, or they pass away. That's the worst. That is the worst.
Oh, I would not wish it on my worst enemy at all.
And that's heavy. So there's a similar pattern that I've noticed when we're healing through things, when we go through stuff. I've never been at anything at your level, and I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know if I could survive something like that. I really don't. Like I always think about, like, fuck, there's two things I don't think I could survive: getting locked up, going to prison for the rest of my life, or dealing with the passing of my kids. For the most part, I can handle a lot of shit. I can be homeless. I've lost my job. I've done all this, and those are things that I'm like, I can figure it out. I don't think I can handle something like that. And the one thing that I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the best things, not the best things, but the best way to get through anything we go through is just with time. Time is going to fix everything. It's not going to make everything better. There's no way it's going to make everything better, but just you
Yeah.
have to give it time, give it time, give it time. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of us dads out there are going through a tough time. And imagine being in a situation like Silverwolf. Like, what do you do at that point, right? Like, you're like, right? Like, how do you advise someone when they lose their child? How do you do that? You can't.
Mhm.
And what you're saying is almost like, hey, I'm not over it, but time has made it easier, you know? And
Yeah.
that's the thing for a lot of us dads. Like, I know you and I had gotten on a call with Steve, right? And that was the thing.
Yeah.
Like, just give it time, bro. Just give it time. Just give it time. Things will get better. Do you think that would be the best advice for someone?
Yeah. Time does slowly heal. I mean, you've got to think when she passed away, we had Mother's Day,
Mm.
we had Father's Day,
God,
we
yeah.
had Christmas to get through.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, mum mum attempted suicide because she couldn't deal with it,
Wow.
because she just could not cope with everything going on.
I mean, do you mind if we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Not too much. You you already had another child already,
Yeah.
and she still attempted it, right? That's This is something that I've always fought myself with. Like, dude, I have kids. Would I still attempt it? Like, yeah, the pain is so crazy. Like, how do you bear through that, man? And
Mm.
like, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's tough. That's really, really, really tough. I can't imagine, especially being a mother. I mean, Dad Lives Matter is to bring awareness that we go through it too. But
Mm.
there's no connection like a mother and a child. There's none. You just can't put that together, right? Because they hold the baby. They have that bond with the baby. They it's just a different bond, you know.
Yeah.
Um, did you guys end up going to therapy because of this?
No, because of background mental health, with what she suffers from, it's just an added on thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's kind of everything built up and built up and built up and just went off, basically.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we were lucky enough. If anybody loses a child, the best thing to do is, I don't know if there's anything over in America, but there's charities over here like Tiny Lives, Lullaby Trust. I think it's Lullaby Trust do what they call a buddy system. So I got given once a week a phone call with another dad that lost his child to something similar. Not exactly the same. He lost his to SIDS, to basically death in the cot sort of thing. He was then my go-to of, how do I get through this? What do I think? How do I do this? How do I do Father's Day? How do I do Christmas? How do I do all these days? And he would go, we do this. We talk about this. We do this. We do this. We do this.
Bro, I
So,
can't. I'm trying
so basically, that's why. And I mean, to be part of that charity, for me to do it for another dad, it has to be 6 years since the death of the child, because they reckon up to 6 years you're still struggling yourself with the loss of your child, as seen in earlier, So it is a really, really rough road, really rough.
I am.
That's why when it came up in conversation the other night, I'm instantly do this, do that, do this, do that, say this, say that. You know, if you know somebody that has lost a child, and this is sort of everybody, if you know somebody that's lost a child and know their name, Christmas, put their name on the card. You will not know how much that means to that person, the mum, the dad, whatever. Everybody does it to us.
You're talking about the child who passed, right?
Yeah,
Their name.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're still part of that family. We had somebody send us a card for the birth of my son. Right, you've got to think we have one boy, Bo, who's 4. We have Silver. We have Lilani, which is 2, so she's a girl, and then we've just had Oakley. Right. Somebody put in the card, what a perfect sandwich. A girl between two brothers. Completely forgot that we'd even had Silver. So you got to think that gap is still there. I mean, you know, just mentioning the name. That's why me and Mum have both got businesses in this field now. I obviously am trained to do kickboxing. I hold a second dan in kickboxing. And I wanted to instruct, but I did not know a name or what to help, for a new club and all the rest of it. And I wanted it to be about Silver because of the fact she fought no end. And we knew she would follow my footsteps in the sport and everything. That's how Silverwolf came about. That's her name on the, her name on the title. Wherever I go, all the competitions, her name's going to be there. All my club, my members that are, my students, they know the background of the name. And it's even like I've had my black belt has been embroidered in silver for Silver Rose. I had to get permission from the president of my organisation that I'm under if I could have silver writing, and he said, "Of course you can. Don't worry about it." So it's actually wrote in silver. Because obviously that's a belt I'm going to have for forever, basically.
I have I don't have anything to say. I'm not going to pretend like I do. I love. What's that?
That's why, like the other night, I was instantly, we need to do this. We need to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I love that you did that, man, because nobody from the lives know that you lost a child. You know what I mean? It's not something that you're like, hey, I lost a child, this and that. No, you're always helping other dads out. For all our listeners as well, you guys have to understand something about Silverwolf. Now that I know the meaning of Silverwolf, is that still okay that we call you Silverwolf? Yeah, okay. It's a beautiful name.
It's the mention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now that everybody knows, for all our TikTok people and everyone else, or Facebook, one of the things that I think is super crazy about you, bro, is that you jump on our lives at 4 a.m.
It's usually 2 till 4, yeah. 2 till 4. 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning?
2 in the morning.
He jumps on our lives at 2 in the morning. He's all the way in the UK. And at 2 in the morning, he is advising other dads. He's giving out some feedback. And have you even missed a live?
There's a couple.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't I don't think I've seen you miss any lives because I've missed a couple myself, right? Because I had the other team jump on there. But on every live that
Yeah,
I've been on, I know I see you there.
I
So
miss I miss a few lives. You know, I'm not the best at it, but every
mhm.
time I jump in, his in there.
He's in there, right? Yeah, I was saying the same thing. And it's 2 in the morning, and then I'm bitching because it's like 8:30 at night, and I'm like, man, I'm so tired. I gotta go. I gotta go to sleep. And our brother's in there, just like, hey, if you guys need anything, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. And it's like, dude, when we got on a phone call with our brother Steve, what time was it? Where you're at 1 in the morning, right? Because it was like an
yeah,
hour before. At 1 in the morning, man,
yeah.
and he's got his baby on his chest, and we're on we're on a video chat, and there's Silverwolf doing his thing, man. He's helping other dads out. So that's so awesome, man. I really love that you do that. I really love it. Says a lot about
That's usually how I spend most of the lives. Is I will be on baby duty.
yeah. Yeah, he's
Laid
on there
there.
with the baby and
Yeah,
he's messaging and stuff. So whew, man, that's so awesome. And I'm glad that we were able to have you on here, man. I'm glad that you're able to share your story. Um dude, I'm just so glad you're part of our team, bro. Like that makes me so happy, man. It just excites me. Um where we're going, this is gonna grow huge. You know, we're gonna ride this thing to the wheels fall off. And if we kept having dads like you know, on here sharing your stories and you know, showing, hey, we could do this together as a team. And one of the things you said is like, I had another dad that I was able to talk to, you know, and when we're able to build this and share it with all the dads in the world, we're starting to realize like, hey, there was a lot of importance in being able to have another father, another person to help you get through all these tough times, you know.
mm.
And that's what we want to build here. That's what we want to do. We want to connect other dads with other dads, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to have a tough time. You know, like man, I know I'm holding back my tears a lot. I'm like, I'm like trying to hold back. The reason why I do it on the podcast because I'll end up just going to the shower later, taking a walk, and that's normally where I cry. You know, that's where I let all my tears out. I try not to do it on the lives or on the phone calls because I still have to be able to communicate, right? Like
Mm.
I'm still delivering the message, and and once I start crying, it's like you know, I almost feel like it becomes about me, and I don't want this to be about me. This is about you. This is about Silver. It's about her story. You know what I mean? And so the reason why I'm saying I hold back is for those reasons. But if you're a dad, don't hold back from crying. Let it out, man. You have to let it out. Like I said, once we get off this live, like I'm gonna take a walk and I'm gonna let it out and be like, all right, hey, you know, whew, that was heavy. You know, I know our co-host Freddie's messaging me and he's like, bro, I'm in tears right now. Like, man, I'm gonna go wash my face right now because you know I'm in tears, right, Freddie?
Yeah,
He's muted.
it's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man. I'm glad that I'm not in the camera because I don't think I would be able to hold it.
yeah, and at one point I thought I lost it. I threw my head back and I was like, "Oh, I can't." And you know,
Hey,
we
even I did that. Even I did that.
yeah, and that's something we promote here. We definitely promote. Hey, cry, let it out. But if you guys see me holding back, it's for a reason. It's not that I don't want to. It's that hey, you know, I want to make sure that we get the message clearly out. But trust me, when we get off this live, I'm gonna go cry this out because it's a beautiful story, man. It is a beautiful story. It is sad. Don't get me wrong, but it's a beautiful story to hear. Look, we saw the sign, choose
Mm.
life. You know what I mean? The nurse was there with you guys, like the relationships you build, the fact that everybody knows who's Silver, her name, the fact that she's been all over the world and she's going to continue going everywhere. The name is beautiful, man. I'm
I
like
mean,
obsessed with the name.
it's like last year. Obviously, we were in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and that was our first family holiday. And we were in I'm going off on one.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
We were in Animal Kingdom, and it was and we went to see Mickey and Minnie together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're vlogging, vlogging the trip and stuff. And we had the photo of the five of us. So there was me, Mum, Bo, Lani, and Silver in a little picture frame. Mum held it.
Yeah.
And we were just generally talking and stuff. And the cameraman went, I need a close up of that picture. Who's the picture? And we said, it's our angel baby. It's Silver. She passed away. And Minnie looked at Mum, looked at the picture, looked at Mum, grabbed her, held her for 10 minutes straight while Mum cried her eyes out. Nobody was allowed, literally, you've got to think that it was like an hour queue outside, and the cast members stopped everything.
Wow.
Until Minnie felt that Mum was all right enough to come away.
Wow.
But yeah, she cuddled and cuddled and cuddled her because of the fact that they didn't realise that's who was in the picture. And they were saying how she was there with us right that moment and everything like that. And they made it just very special.
I love it. I love it because when you started telling me about her, in my head, and this is just the way I pictured her, I pictured a little blonde, badass chick. That's kind of how I pictured her. You know what I mean? Like, you seen Kick-Ass? That girl that kicks ass. That's kind of like the first thought that came to mind was, oh, this little girl, she was a badass, I'm sure. And that's kind of how I painted my picture. I don't know what she looks like. You know what I mean? I'm just going off like this kid, and I'm picturing her in my head. And I think that's awesome, man, because
if you go on YouTube and search Silver Rose life, you will see a picture of her, and it is the video that my wife put together for her funeral that you can watch, and it's from everything from finding out to the day that we had to bury her, basically.
Yeah, I think Freddie has the link. Is that something we could put on the podcast?
By all means.
You sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for our listeners, we're going to have that podcast so you can see that. On there, we do have the link, so I definitely want to see that. I'm excited to see it. Yeah. What advice do you have for the dads on Dad Lives Matter? What's your
Just be open. If you say I'm struggling, don't just then go, it's nothing. The amount of times we've seen it recently where it's something's up. What's up?
Yeah.
Oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. No, what's up? Oh, nothing. Right. Okay, so why have you said I'm struggling?
Yeah.
I mean...
This is really good that you said that. I'm going to cut you really quick. This is something that I just went through. You were on the live on Wednesday when I was just fucking ranting. And everybody's like, what the fuck was that? Right? Like, that's not you. And my team was like, bro, what's up? And I was like, nothing. I was kind of like, no. And there was something wrong. There was something going on. I was fighting this whole thing. That's after we got off the call with Steve. Remember?
It was literally just before. Yeah, just before.
Right. It had nothing to do with Steve. It just had to do with my entire day, my entire week, and all this stuff. And I was trying to deliver this message, and it was a mess. That had to be one of my worst lives that I have done. Like, it was just, everyone's like, Doug, what the hell was that? Who was that guy? And even myself, I'm guilty of this, where I was like, no, I'm fine. And my team was like, no, bro, what's up? And I was like, bro, all right, I have a lot on my plate. I'm tired. I know that I started Dad Lives Matter, but I'm tired. I get beat all the time with messages and this and that. And he's trying to balance life. And I have my businesses that I'm trying to balance out as well. So it's a lot. And once I let it all out and we were able to just talk about it, I felt better. And I was like, that's right. All right. I've got to get back on track. So it is important when you say, oh, I'm fine. Don't just say the truth. Just, hey, I'm not fine. I don't know. And even if you don't know what it is, that's okay. Right. But just be aware that, hey, no, I'm not doing okay. Like, let's talk.
Like sometimes when conversations come up, I do completely go opposite to everybody else and go, look, it's this, not that, it's this. Mm-hmm. No, it's not, it's that. I mean, we had it the other night with that kid going like bananas when they got home. We've been told by our school what it is. They are behaving so well at school all day long, come home to their safe place,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
they let it all out. It's nothing to do with disciplining them or whatever. It's their safe place. They've just gone, boom, I'm home. We have it every single day here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
my 4-year-old walks in, boom, yeah. And like, yeah, the best thing for that is structure, but it's a structure of as soon as they're home, tea, bath, bed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Boys need structure.
You know, and there's no, yeah. Or like, what was it? The 16-year-old that we had on, Trey.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, he just needs, he's still a kid. He's still a baby.
Yeah.
Even Acid. Even Acid is the baby of the group.
Yeah.
And they're just going, oh, you need to do this, you need to straighten up, do that, do that. I says, look, we're all giving him advice of get an Uber to your mum, you know, where the baby is.
Yeah.
He's got no money. Oh, we're not giving him money. I says, no, we ain't giving him money. We need to get him her job first.
Yeah. Yep.
Then his money will come.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, and then it starts going, like, we were kind of going off, you know, he needs a lift to get somewhere. He needs to be the dog's body for somebody's business. He needs to be a server, a pot washer or something. He just needs his foot in the door. This is what I said. He needs his foot in the door. That's it.
Yep.
You know,
100%. That's it, man. Getting your foot in the door is that's the game changer. You know, because after that,
like,
it's just momentum.
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up without a dad. Somebody asked the other day on the One of Lives, when should I tell my 13-year-old daughter I'm not her dad? And I turned around and said, don't do it. Don't do it. And everybody's going, tell her now. Tell her when you go fishing. Tell her now. I said, look, I've grown up in that situation. It broke me completely. I was 12 years old, and I got pulled aside. Just let you know, I mean, I'm not your dad. I haven't been your dad at all. I'm not your dad. Okay. What am I meant to do with this information?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not your dad. That was it.
It's a really good point.
Then when it came to them splitting up, he comes to me and was like, just remember, I am your dad. I'm still your dad. I'm still here. Did it? Not spoke to me in 4 years.
Whew.
Got a new family. Gone. That's it. Don't hear from him at all. My biological dad knows who I am. I've lived in the same town as him. Gone to the same supermarket where he's worked.
No.
Not once has he said hello.
Stop.
No child maintenance. Nothing. He quit his job so he didn't have to pay child maintenance.
Child maintenance is child support, guys.
Yeah. It's just that's what we call it, is child maintenance.
Yeah.
He left his job and basically said he couldn't work, so he couldn't pay for me. And that story, basically, Mum fell pregnant with me. He left her, got with somebody else, got her pregnant. So I have a brother, a half brother, the exact same age, in the exact same year at school, and I had to play it off that I was his cousin because I knew what I actually was to him. He didn't know.
Wow.
So I was the eldest. But yeah, I basically. So the roots go quite deep.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that, but we could also go on the other side of the coin, right? And be like, we're grateful that happened, right? Like, I'm grateful that my dad was a piece of shit. I am. I tell people all the time, I'm so grateful that he was a piece of shit, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be the father I am now, because I know what hurt and I know what doesn't hurt and I know what I wish my dad would have been like growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's made me a better father because of that reason. So it's learning how to take adversity head on, and it's learning from it, not losing. It's not losing. We don't call it losing. We call it learning, right? Like, what do you learn, right? Like, what are we taking away from that? Just like you said, like, man, my dad was in the same damn spot, but he won't even say hi. So you learn that, like, you'll never do that to your kids ever, right? Like, you'll never do that. That's something you learn from that. And so this is something that a lot of the dads are learning. We're learning. I'm only 35. How old are you again?
27.
27, and you're still learning. I'm still learning. You don't stop learning when you're a dad. When you're a parent, you don't just figure it fucking out, man. You have to, the first year you got to figure it out. Then year 2 changes. Then when you turn 3, that changes.
It's like
then 4.
it's ridiculous that people think because you've got an older child, it's not your first time. Like, you got to think, first time he's gone to school.
Yeah.
Learning how to do all the school stuff.
Yeah.
But because we've got 3 other kids, think, you already know what you're doing. Even now, my wife will go with the newborn, going, "What do I do with him? I fed him, I've changed him. What do we do?" And even I'm like, well, we just do everything again.
Yeah,
we just there is still times now with the youngest we'll go, crap, what do we do?
And that's for all the listeners. Like, if you're having a hard time, if you're going through a tough one, like, we all go through it, guys. We're all still learning, and don't be so hard on yourself. And just like we learn when you have a loss of a child, which is one of the toughest things, but we're talking about, hey, Silverwolf, what would you recommend? And he says, talk about it. Talk about it. Find someone to talk about it with. And this is a big one that Our Lives Matter. This is something we really stand for, is talk about it. Don't hold back. It's okay to cry. Let it out. So with all that being said, brother, what do you want to close this with? What is your closing statement for everyone who's listening?
Just be open as a book, because somebody's got the same page. Somebody will have gone through something similar, or going through something similar, or been through something similar, and just have a look through the book. It's a never-ending book. The chapters change, the year changes.
Yeah, the season might change, the episode might change, but it never stops.
No, I mean, you've got to think the next month is my rough month.
Yeah.
That's when it really goes up and down, and
yeah, it's coming.
We can already sense it's coming.
Yeah. That's tough, man. Well, know that we're here for you, bro. If you need anything, you know that you got us. If you want to jump on a Zoom call with a team, we would definitely do that. There's no questions asked. You already know we got your 6 here, and I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that I'm able to have this talk with you, bro. I'm grateful to be in the situation I'm in that allows me to talk to someone like you, and you're able to share your story with us. That's a big deal, man. So for our listeners who are listening, how can they get a hold of you? Because you're all the way in the UK. So is there any way they can get a hold of you, as far as like we have your TikTok? Hold on, Freddie. We're gonna put his TikTok on here and his Facebook.
Yeah, we're gonna put if you're okay with it, your social media, we're gonna link it on the episode notes.
Okay.
Just email it to me.
Perfect. Cool. So we'll put that on there. We'll put the YouTube video on there as well. We'll put a link to that. Anything else you want us to put on there for
also
people?
if you want the website for your school.
Yeah, you want your website on there as well. We can put your website on there. Anything you want, man. We'll make sure that we'll put it on there.
One thing that my wife's done, and I'm kind of holding it in my hand, is she actually made pin badges. There's one for Mum. Don't know if there's one for Mum close by to me, but there's one for Dad. I'll see if I can show you on the camera.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, dude, that is gorgeous.
So it's the silver rose.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a rose, right? Yeah.
Yeah, silver rose. It's kind of tribal to make it look a bit masculine.
Yeah.
But it says angel dad right in the middle.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I see that now.
I think she sells them on Etsy. A lot of them actually went to America. A lot of the Angel Mum ones.
Send me the link. We're gonna put that also on the
show and then I want to go ahead
and I'm gonna order.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to make sure I order one too, and we send one to Eli.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. She had a lot of her orders come from America from mums.
That's awesome.
For the mum one, and the mum one's sort of a purple heart in the middle with two angel wings, and then it has Angel Mama underneath, just so that you can wear it wherever, so you instantly know by seeing it.
You know,
there's something a bit more special.
Yeah, definitely. No, we'll definitely get that, you guys. If anybody wants to order those, we'll make sure to have the links on the YouTube. And then we put the links on the podcast as well, bro. Is that so? Oh, we do. Okay.
On the show notes, we're gonna put the links.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, Silverwolf, bro, it was a pleasure. Thank you for taking time to share your story, man. It was a great story. I gotta jump out of here and take a walk and just let it out, man. I wish you were closer, bro. But I kind of love that you're on the complete opposite side of us, because it lets all the other dads know that it doesn't matter where you're from, man. We're all going through it. We have that relatability. We're all dads that struggle, because I think a lot of us forget, hey, there is another part of the world, you know, and they're going through it over there. We're going through it over here. We're all
the joys of technology. Yeah,
exactly. It's so awesome that we're able to do this, man. We're in a very different time right now where we could do these kind of things where our parents couldn't do that. So we definitely want to take advantage of stuff. But thank you, bro. Really, really appreciate you. Tell your wife that thank you for allowing you to share your story as well. We're definitely going to keep you and your family in our prayers. And if you need anything, bro, we got your six. We always say that. I love that we say that. I love that this has become the same for Dad Lives Matter. I think that's one of the coolest things ever.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm so grateful. You guys, will make sure that we put all that information on the podcast. So if you guys want to follow him, show him some support, if you want to buy any of their stuff as well, make sure that you jump on the links. And he's always on our TikTok live. So you guys want to talk to him on a live, make sure you follow the dad TikTok. We always add those links as well. Follow our YouTube so you can see this video on here, get a visual representation of this conversation, put a face to the name. And other than that,
just look out for the big wolf with the eyes.
What?
The big wolf.
Yeah, there you go.
That one.
There you go. That's the logo.
That's the logo, guys. That's what Silverwolf's logo is. So when you see that,
love the slogan, part of the pack.
That's cool. Yeah. That's the saying.
He's alive, man. So Silverwolf, it is a pleasure, bro. Again, thank you for sharing your story, man. We are so grateful to have you on here.
Cheers. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, bro. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Dad Lives Matter.